What are some of the trends that you're paying attention to just in the space you're in, or just broadly speaking around marketing? Are there any trends that you're noticing, paying attention to, utilizing in your own work?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the ones that we're watching with interest is the idea of how people interact with each other digitally. So there's lots of conversations at the moment about kind of the metaverse, and some people roll their eyes when they hear about that. They're like, oh, it's a solution looking for a problem. Like and you can take a whole bunch of different approaches or angles to thinking about that. I think it's really relevant when you think about kind of losing a loved one and kind of perpetuating the memories that exist around that person. So if you think about the intersection of kind of augmented or virtual reality, the idea that, when someone passes away, one of the awful things that happens is that over generations, people forget about them. And there's just photos that exist in the photo album and people kind of can see what they look like, but no one really knows who that person was. So one of the things that's really important in a number of different cultures is to kind of perpetuate or kind of pay respect to the people who have passed before you, and keeping their memory alive and being able to kind of hand that down to kind of, grandchildren of grandchildren and say, hey, do you know your great-great-grandmother, did this and this and this? What an amazing woman. Like, how fascinating is that? And people are enthralled with kind of their lineage and enthralled with who are they and why am I here and why did I get here, and seeking meaning and seeking connection in kind of who they are and their context today, and the family that's gone before them often is a really interesting conversation to have around that. So for us, being able to find new technologies that help bring that to life in an even better way. So let's think beyond photos and videos, and let's think into kind of, well, how do you kind of have future messages that happen? That's one of the product features in our platform at the moment, is the ability to for someone who might know that in the future they might not make it to their son or daughter's 21st birthday or whatever the scenario might be, they can record messages of themselves and leave them for those amazing occasions, which is an awfully sad use case, but what a great solution for that person who feels like that they can be part of someone's life after they've gone. And so any technology that exists around that helps people get into the headspace of connecting with those they've lost and helps them through a grieving process is really, really interesting to us. So we're certainly keeping a really close eye on how that plays out across a number of different industries. The other thing that's a challenge for kind of any marketer at the moment who's spending money in kind of all the digital space is just around privacy. So one of the things that Memories Group prides itself on is absolutely our approach to privacy. There's sensitive data, and then there's sensitive data, and your memories of your mum or dad or uncle or whoever it is are incredibly personal. The other product that we haven't actually spoken about, which is Future Me, this is people writing letters to themselves or others in the future and receiving them back at a kind of a future date. Again, some of those are lighthearted and whimsical and beautiful. Some of them are really, really deeply personal, not necessarily positive. There's not much. Your innermost thoughts are probably kind of the most important thing that you could protect from a data and privacy perspective. So as a marketer, when I think about kind of making promises around kind of data and privacy, you have to be able to live up to that, and you have to think about the way that you're addressing kind of your advertising, the way that you're using your customer data to try and attract new customers, and taking a really strong ethics-based approach to the way we do that. So certainly keeping an eye on the way that both the practice of utilization of data and marketing and then the ethical considerations that go with that play out together is really important for me at the moment.
Over 500,000 users, 195 countries. Any surprising kind of insights gathered from, people that are, using this platform already? There's so much, like you said, people handle death differently in different cultures. And then there's the digitization of this industry that you're serving in this category. Are any surprising insights gathered from, other cultures or countries around the world?
Yeah, absolutely. I think a couple of things that spring to mind immediately. So one of the things that is a fantastic lesson that anyone in marketing needs to remind themselves of every single morning when they wake up is that you are not the customer. So it's really easy to fall into the trap of kind of going, oh yeah, this is how people should use our products because this is the way that I think about it. Yep. And when you see people in other countries and with different cultural behaviors and practices using their products, you're like, wow, I never thought about them using it that way. I never thought about them kind of being able to put things together. One of the things that we spoke about internally kind of a few weeks ago was one of the traditions that exists in Japan around honoring loved ones. And part of that tradition is really around someone being able to kind of look after that person after they've gone. So, that's, make offerings and making sure that they are, that person's being looked after they've gone. And that's really, really important in the Japanese culture, to make sure that you are looked after you've gone. It doesn't necessarily have to be your family. It usually is, but it doesn't necessarily have to be. And so one of the big challenges that's happening in Japan at the moment is that, with lower birth rates, et cetera, they're kind of going, well, who's looking after me? Like, if I don't have children, like, what's happening? Like, do I just, have a tombstone on a grave on the side of a hill, and does it disappear into the ether at some point? Like, what actually happens? It's been fascinating for us to kind of get into, those different cultural nuances and say, well, what's the role that our product plays within there? Because, we can't have the assumption, the way it works in the US and the UK and Australia, which is, hey, you have a funeral service and there might be a celebration of life or a wake or something that, occurs then. And then you have this beautiful digital memorial that people can share with each other, or keep to themselves. That kind of lives on and on. It's a different way of kind of thinking about the product. And so every day I'm surprised by a new cultural nuance, and have to rethink kind of, okay, well, what does that mean in the context of how we position our product? We still believe in the core value proposition. I don't think that really, really changes, but it's about how that's presented as valuable to kind of the end customer. The next thing that I think's really been super surprising in the way that we've kind of taken this product to market is how people interact with a digital memorial. And so we get some memorials that have, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of kind of memories put in there, people leaving comments, people putting, videos, people sharing, an amazing outpouring of grief, right? And you'd think, well, surely, like, aren't all memorials like that? And the answer is no, because people really want to treat them differently. There's lots of memorials where there is a single person who has set it up. There's a single person who's, put something in there, and that's it. It's theirs. No one else sees it. They haven't shared it with anyone else. And it's a personal thing that they have with the person that they have lost. And so when as a marketer, I think about, sure, we're trying to attract these people in, and then how do I drive engagement? How do I make sure that they're getting the most value out of this product that they've purchased as possible? And how do I make sure I prompt them to say, hey, you could add another memory at this point. You could, invite contributors, because a memorial is much more rich. You've really got to think about how you break down kind of the homogeneity of a group of people globally who might want to memorialize a loved one, and split that into kind of different behavioral nuances, and then trade that off against kind of, how we think we're providing great service to customers and what those benchmarks should look like.
Hey everyone, thanks for watching. This segment is brought to you by Salesforce. Salesforce brings marketing and engagement together. If you want to learn more, head over to salesforce.com/marketing. And please subscribe to this channel for more marketing insights from the world's best marketing leaders across the Fortune 500 and beyond.